Single room, double room.
I'm alone. I have to be here in the morning.
One thing at a time. Mind you, don't give us any trouble.
En af verdens mest enigmatiske skuespillere, Crispin Glover, spiller ganske passende hovedrollen i en af årets mest gådefulde film, Mr. K, som for nylig kørte i biografen Gloria i København.
Do you know the way to the exit?
Which one?
You haven't been out at all, have you?
Vi hverken bør eller kan sige så meget om plottet i Mr. K, for det er en film indhyllet i symbolik, tvetydighed og rent og skær kaos.
Hurry up, we haven't got all day. Get in line. Get in line. Okay? Tempo.
Og midt i alt det finder vi altså Crispin Glover, der spiller Mr. K, en tryllekunstner, som desperat forsøger at finde vej ud af et hotel.
You are that nice young man who was looking for the reception. Did you find it, dear?
Men ligesom et Kafka-agtigt mareridt blev hotellet ved med at holde vores hovedperson indespærret i en forvirrende mareridtsagtig labyrint, fyldt med besynderlige steder og karakterer. I 2018 lavede vi et langt karriereinterview med Glover her på Moovy, som vi naturligvis opfordrer jer til at finde og se, hvis I er nysgerrige på det unikke multitalent. Der taler vi om alt fra hans spøjse roller i Charlie's Angels, Epic Moovy.
Let us out, freak.
No, I can't do that.
Til hans glansroller i perler som River's Edge.
We've got to test our loyalty against all odds. It's kind of exciting. I feel like Chuck Norris, you know?
Og ikke mindst Tilbage til fremtiden, hvor han spiller Marty McFlys far, George McFly.
You're George McFly. Yeah, who are you?
Og her er det desuden vigtigt at pointere, at det altså ikke er Glover, som spiller rollen i Tilbage til fremtiden 2 og 3. Crispin Glover havde ikke lyst til at medvirke, så derfor sminkede man en anden skuespiller, Jeffrey Wiseman, til at ligne Glover på en prik. Glover sagsøgte producenterne, fordi de fik det til at fremstå, som om han vildt var med i fortsættelserne, og Glover vandt sagen. Og han skabte dermed præcedens i forhold til brugen af lookalikes i Hollywood-film. Og vi deler den historie her nu, fordi den spiller en rolle senere i vores interview.
What people can do is horrific.
Og som vi også fik bekræftet i 2018, så er Glover en meget snaksalig fyr, som altså gerne indrømmer, at han har en tendens til at plapre.
I'm just rambling at this point.
No, but it's great rambling. Og i denne udsendelse har vi og Glover hovedsageligt plapret løs om Mr. K, plus en smule om kunstig intelligens, den nyligt afdøde David Lynch og en af filmhistoriens allerfedeste dansescener.
Would you care to dance? It's good. Oh, good.
Don't ask me to stay. Don't think you got it made, no.
Now, Crispin, I'm going to go on a deep cut here because last time I got to speak to you, I love that I got to delve into a couple of your different performances and talk about them. But there's something I've always wanted to ask you about because one of my guilty pleasures is the Friday the 13th franchise, and of course you were in the fourth one of those. You were in Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Where you have some excellent lines.
Hey Ted, where's that corkscrew, that fancy corkscrew for the wine bottle? No, we have no suits. Oh, God, I'm horny.
You get killed by Jason Voorhees. I mean, that's cinematic royalty in a way. I love that. Where the hell is the corkscrew? I mean, that's another iconic line.
Ted, hey Ted, where the hell's the corkscrew?
But the part I want to ask about especially is about this legendary dance scene, which of course has become, a legendary gif and meme also in modern times as well. And I just want to hear, there's a rumor that the director just said action and they just improvise these amazing moves. I just got to hear about that scene in particular.
Well, it's a little more, it was a little more thought out than that. There was the script just said, they dance, something pretty simple. And I asked for them to play, it was AC/DC's Back in Black. Somebody at some point, I don't know if it's around anymore, put it up on YouTube where they probably, for copyright reasons, it was taken down. But they had it with Back in Black. The movements were always odd, but it was a little more syncopated to the Back in Black than the soundtrack that they ended up using later.
Hey, how come you turned that off?
But I knew it would be a fairly asynchronous looking dance, and I end up having sex. My character has sex with the girl that I dance with. I'm not quite, I don't actually remember why I felt like that was a good idea at this point. It was just sort of instinctual, of like, oh, I can do something kind of amusing, I suppose, was my thought process. I remember just in general on that film that I was just looking to, because I like you're saying that Friday the 13th is sort of
Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
How did you put it? Some kind of
Jason Voorhees is cinematic royalty in a way.
That's what, yeah, cinematic royalty. Jason Voorhees. But for me at the time, I was very concerned. I had moved out of my parents' house when I was 18, so I had turned 19. As an actor, I had made a little bit of money up to the point of 18, but this is 1982 money.
This looks like a nice party.
Professor Mills gives them every year. It's his way of making up for all the pain he's gonna cause you later.
I had $10,000 saved up, which was about enough to live for 6 months or maybe a little bit more. And I started running out of that money. And I had some work.
Sit down. Fonzie, if you don't mind, I'll handle this. Hey, I'm on your turf. Sure. Yeah, thank you. I'll just sit over here. Okay. Out of the way. Now, I've looked at your files, and you don't seem to be the idiot you pretend to be. I'll try harder.
But there was a certain amount of time I hadn't worked, and I was getting very nervous about not having money. I did not want to move back to my parents' house. Not that my parents were bad. I was 18 and I needed to be out on my own. And I had an audition for the Friday the 13th. At this point, I had learned that if you go into an audition with somebody that you'd not met before, not rehearsed with, that there could be an energetic discrepancy that could make the audition not go as well. And I needed work. So I knew that I was going in for Friday the 13th. I did the same thing for Back to the Future later.
Are you okay?
Where I would contact the person, if I knew in advance that I was going to go in with somebody, I'd contact them through their agent and then rehearse with them a day or two before going in for the audition so that there was already a connection. And I remember, in fact, the actor that I auditioned with ended up being in River's Edge later. His name's Phil Brock, good actor, nice fellow. And he came over to my apartment and we rehearsed it. We went in and auditioned together. He didn't end up getting that. He later was in River's Edge, but I got the part. But the thing is I had seen Friday the 13th, the original one, in the movie theater.
It must be my imagination.
Not too long after, they'd had a re-release of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I'd seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think just a few months before I saw Friday the 13th.
the most bizarre and brutal series of crimes in America.
From my perspective, I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but when I saw Friday the 13th, this is the first one, I thought, well, that's very derivative of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I thought the original Friday the 13th was not that interesting. I thought it was, all right, well, whatever. It was okay. I mean, I didn't hate it, but I wasn't enamored with it. So for me, doing a part 4 of this movie that I thought was like a derivative of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I thought, oh, I just needed a job. So so my approach when I was acting, and I just was going to have a good time.
This is a neat room.
But I wasn't thinking it was like a great piece of art. I just felt like I'm going to have a good time and try to do with it as it will. I'm glad that the movie is a franchise that people enjoy, and it was not what was in my head at the moment. I was concerned about it. I wanted to be in a better film. The next film I did after that was a film called Teachers, Arthur Hiller directed, which was a studio-backed film. So I was quite happy to get in a studio-backed film.
Where'd you get this car? Where'd you get it?
To Rosenberg's.
What are you, fucking crazy?
What's your problem?
You stupid asshole. You don't go ripping a teacher's car. What do you want to go back to juvie again?
Get the hell off of me.
No, you can't do this. You're going to get caught. Now just take it back.
No way. I took this. It's mine.
And then I acted in Back to the Future.
Where's your apron? Don't just stand here and get to it, okay?
I'm not,
You need to be here. Come on. You're behind.
Hurry up, asshole.
They're jealous. But you can't really blame them. Most people have worked for years to get a job like yours. You swiped it just minutes after you set foot into the kitchen.
Mr. K is such an unconventional, such an untraditional film compared to most of the stuff that we get in cinemas these days, of course. And I imagine that when you commit to a project like this, you have to have a lot of faith in the director, in her ability to realize her unique vision and to steer the project home when it's something that is this unique. So I'd love to hear, what was it about Tallulah Schwab, and what was it about her script and her sort of artistic vision that convinced you to commit to this project?
Well, I was sent the screenplay and then a PDF file with images that were, the influences for the production design in various aspects of the film. And it was evident just from the screenplay and that PDF file that there was a solid vision. I knew she had directed at least one feature film before.
Katelijne, zo'n dwarsenspokhout.
And then we had, more than an hour and a half Zoom conversation about the screenplay and various films, and just talked. And it was evident that she knew what she was doing and what she wanted.
Look.
The hotel is shrinking.
For me, this film almost at times felt like a perfect portrayal of a nightmare. I mean, I think I've had this nightmare a few times where you feel like it seems like the real world, but there's something that's off about it, and it becomes seemingly more and more odd, and you can't escape.
We have to mark every corridor. Enough!
But then also at the same time, your sense of reality, your grasp of reality slips further and further away, almost like you're being absorbed into this nightmarish world, and you start to feel like you actually belong there. I mean, I felt I've had this nightmare a few times, so that really affected me while I was also watching it. And I couldn't help but wonder, what sort of dreams and nightmares does Crispin Glover have? And also, when you're immersed on a film project like this for months, do the movies seep into your nightmares and dreams as well?
I usually don't remember my dreams. Sometimes I do, but I usually don't. And of course, there's a big difference between a dream and a nightmare kind of thing. But I wish I remembered my dreams more. I know that there's that idea of having the dream journal where you wake up and write down immediately what you dreamed. And I did that a little bit, and it helped me remember my dreams more a little bit. I enjoy having dreams, but I rarely remember them. Films, usually when I'm working on a film, it's particularly like this film, I was in virtually every scene of the film. So the schedule was packed. You get tired, so you sleep and then get back to work. I'm sure I did not remember any dreams during the making of this film. But no, usually the films do not infiltrate into my personal life.
What? I'm making my lunch! Don't think you got it made, no.
And also, I'd love to hear, because I think, aside from your performance, my favorite aspects about this particular film is the beautiful set design, how alive it is, and how there's an evolution to it throughout the film. And then also the sound design is amazing and deliciously nightmarish as well, especially those scenes with the orchestra, just, it penetrated my soul, For you to experience that in the cinema for the first time, that must be such a rewarding experience, to having been on set, not having all those elements, and then seeing the finished piece with all those sound elements and the set design, especially to see that on this big screen. How was that?
Yeah, usually these days, I sort of have developed a rule that I usually only see a film or production, whatever it is, if there's some kind of premiere that I'm invited to, and it's on a big screen and an audience, and then I'll go see it. If that doesn't happen, I've gotten to the point where I usually don't watch the film. I've enjoyed making the film, and I don't know, the concept of sitting alone at home watching a movie on a computer is not that fun. However, with Mr. K, I did watch it on the computer first. And then I went and saw it when it premiered in Toronto. It was nice to see it up on the screen, and it does have a good production value. And I've been happy that the film has been getting good reviews, and I've been getting good reviews in it. So that's nice. I like that.
Your performance gets a great review from me as well, so you could add that to
oh, good. Thanks.
As well.
Hurry up, you can't stay here.
It's a quote I'd actually like to read you from your director, Tallulah on Mr. K, which I thought was so interesting, where she's asked about, hiring you for this particular part. And she says, Glover has a unique personality that is both inscrutable and fascinating. He's difficult to fathom. That was exactly what I wanted for Mr. K. It was important to me that the viewer does not know what to expect from Mr. K at the start of the film. And I think I love that. And I guess it's difficult to take a leap back and analyze and be analytical about yourself in that way. But do you agree that you have, as she says, that you have a certain mystique and duality about you that made you perfect for this part especially?
Well, something I thought that Jack Nicholson was pretty good about, he usually didn't do on-camera interviews. There's some, but not too many.
Can you remember the time in your own childhood or adolescence when you formulated the desire to be an actor?
Was there a point, someone you saw or someone who influenced you?
Well, no, I would say it was a gradual thing, as it probably is with most people.
And there is something to that. I was originally not planning to do, my original concept was that I would be an actor that would never do any promotion ever. And I would just be an actor that would appear in things every once in a while and you wouldn't know anything about them. But then when River's Edge came out, of course, Keanu Reeves is in the film. At this point, he would be the person everybody would say, got to get him to do promotion. But at the time, because Back to the Future hadn't come out too long before it, and I had first billing on the film, and I was proud. I am proud of that film. So I wanted to let it be known, and I was the person that, they wanted me to do some promotion, so I felt like I should. But it wasn't my plan, and I was not particularly comfortable with it.
Now, this picture you're doing is a grim picture.
Well.
Back to the Future was light and
well,
funny,
I suppose so. I think River's Edge has a lot of comedy in it, but I guess.
Well, it's a story based on a true story about a young man who had, in high school, murdered his girlfriend.
Right.
Then took other students down, told them about it.
Yes.
They looked at the body, did they not?
Yes.
And nobody reported it.
That's right.
And this is a comedy?
Well, it has certain comic elements to it, I believe, and it certainly deals with these death-oriented things, which I guess disturbs a lot of people. But
yes, definitely.
I felt it sort of silly about talk show things.
Do people want you to be in a lot of their films?
Well, I suppose so. Yes.
Only in America.
And I still sort of do, but as a filmmaker, I don't feel silly about it. As an actor, I feel silly about it. So I'm actually more comfortable talking about my own films as a filmmaker.
Good. He's dead. Now we can have a good time.
Than I am just being an actor in films, because ultimately it's the filmmaker's art. So, I mean, it's a collaborative art, no matter what part somebody plays in the process, but particularly as an actor, it's a collaborative process. So, often the actors are the people that are asked about character and development and all these things that it's really not what the actor, the actor makes decisions about the character, it's true, but certainly not about the story. Sometimes an actor will input, but for the most part, I feel like those are things that the writer-directors should be talking about.
Gamer, you all play. You have potential. You are special.
Both in terms of the story and the aesthetics of the film, it's obviously inspired by one of the greatest artists of our time, David Lynch, who, of course, sadly passed away a few weeks ago.
I've been really, really mourning that. I acted with him twice in two different productions. First, Wild at Heart, and second, Hotel Room. And I first met him for a film that did not ever get made in the late 80s. And then I was planning, I'm particularly sad that for many different reasons, but one of them is that he had a autobiography come out a few years back. And it was only in that biography I discovered, I did not realize this, but David Lynch was under the impression that he was the executive producer of What Is It?
I love you.
Now, he essentially was, but I didn't, we had a miscommunication. Had I thought that he thought he was the executive producer of What Is It, I would have been advertising this since 2005 when it appeared in Sundance. I've been in communication with him in various ways. He would have art shows, or there were email things. And with all these people, there's a lot of people that talk about, him having great influence. And he really did. Like, I'm sure it seems that he did it for a lot of people. He had great influence and support for me. I'm really grateful to him. But what happened was he had agreed to executive produce a different screenplay called It Is Mine, I went to one of the predominant production companies of so-called independent film. There was interest, but they let me know they were concerned about funding a film where a majority of the characters would be played by actors with Down syndrome. So I set out to make a short film, which I wrote, called What Is It? It was a short screenplay, like 24 pages. I made all of the characters to be played by actors with Down syndrome because I wanted to prove that it was viable to make a film with all of the characters to be played by actors with Down syndrome. Anyhow, so I went and showed David Lynch at his house in the Hollywood Hills a median cut, because he had been supportive. He did do things. He would like write letters, and he was great. And you'll hear many people say that. He really was a great person. Yeah. Also a great world-class artist. So we've lost a great world-class artist. And then I knew him personally. I'm really sad that he's gone. And he was truly supportive. And I'm sure not just me. You hear a lot of people saying it, but it's real. Yeah. And so I showed him the film. We went into a room with the monitor, and he sat and chain smoked while he watched it. In the end, he said, I dig it, I dig it, I dig it. But he didn't say, I want to executive produce this movie. So I thought, oh, well, he wants to wait until the other film is ready. But in retrospect, I realized that he thought that was the film, and he did help with that film. I'm very upset that I didn't say that he was the executive producer, but I didn't want to take advantage. But I wouldn't have been taking advantage because he thought he had. So it's he knew it. The last time I saw him was at an art show he had in 2019. I communicated this to him in various ways. So at least he knew that there'd been this misunderstanding. But yeah, he's great. It's a real loss. It's a real loss. He's gone. But what a great person and a great film.
Like you say, that's what so many people are saying now. It's interesting again because so many of his films have this nightmarish quality.
We've met before, haven't we?
I don't think so.
At your house, don't you remember?
No, I don't.
As a matter of fact, I'm there right now.
That's crazy, man.
Call me.
And then he's just the most gentle, kind, soft-spoken artist.
I wished Isabella Rossellini a happy birthday, but to you, Sir Paul McCartney, someone pointed out it's your birthday as well.
And also, I loved your small part in Wild at Heart. I love your line, I'm making my lunch!
What are you doing?
I'm making my lunch!
Now that was, and he was, it was very specifically directed, like probably the most specific direction I've ever had, ever. And to the point that if it had been any other director, it probably would have been uncomfortable or unpleasant. But you know, he was, I think I read something Kyle MacLachlan wrote saying, I think he was right about this, that David Lynch was not particularly verbal. You know, you hear him talk, and he does, but there's something accurate about that.
Action!
He talks, he spoke in a certain way.
You listen to Randy, I'm going to try to keep quiet. I might not be able to.
But there was really a lot going on in his head. You could tell, and I could feel that when he directed me, and it was intelligent. It was intelligent, but also manifested in an artistic sense. And I had, when I was 14, one of the movies that I went to, it was Eraserhead. And I did not know what it was. I just thought, is this an old movie from the 50s? Because it was black and white, and I'd never read anything about David Lynch. I just thought, this movie looks very interesting. And I was 14. And that film really was a hugely important film to me. I went and saw it over and over again, midnights. This was before Elephant Man had come out, so there wouldn't be that many people in the theater, and some people would get mad and like yell at the screen and walk out, and then it would get really, really quiet.
Beats the hell out of me. I got to think about it for a while.
So people want to give you a card?
Oh, gosh, it was the best thing I've seen all year.
I enjoyed it very much. My kind of movie.
Some inane, bizarre person with a disturbed mind wrote that film, and I did not enjoy it.
I mean, David Lynch could do no wrong for me, but still, of all the films he ever made, for me personally, Eraserhead, just the cinematic expression, the cinematic syntax that he's using in that film, I think is such a pure form of expression. And he worked on it for such a long time. And it's an important film to go see in the theater, I think, because of the organ music, the sonic quality of the organ.
The low frequencies.
Like, yeah. The sonic quality, like you say, the low frequency, it gets into your bone marrow. And there's something about that it's a different experience than watching something on a video at home.
Yeah, I think Eraserhead may actually be my favorite David Lynch film. And the interesting part is, I sort of hated that film. I may have been one of the ones who shouted at it the first time, and then the second time, I just loved it. And I think many people have that sort of experiences with Lynch movies, that they can widely vary your experiences of the film as well. And I think on the second viewing, it dawned on me how funny it also is.
Do I just cut them up like regular chickens?
Sure, just cut them up like regular chickens.
There's a wide range of emotions that Eraserhead has. There is humor. There's even things that are a bit sad, and there's certainly terror.
Yeah. And I've just I became a dad like 11 months ago, so I'm afraid to rewatch it now because, of course, it's very much a horror movie about about babies becoming a dad and the fears that are inherent to that.
Oh, you are sick.
As well, so I may have another new perspective on it as well the next time I see it.
I think it's interesting that Eraserhead, Lynch has said that Kubrick said it was his favorite film.
That was a great moment for sure. It wasn't one of his favorites, it was his favorite.
And I had heard that he would show Eraserhead to the cast and crew of The Shining. I can see very clearly that The Shining is very much influenced, particularly in the audio, by Eraserhead. But you know what is it they say? Bad artists copy, great artists steal. and that's to me, Kubrick is a great artist who meaning that if a bad artist, you can tell, oh, this is derivative of something. Kubrick is a great artist.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be derivative of Eraserhead. Eraserhead is a great film. Shining is a great film. And you wouldn't say there are similar films, but I can very much see the influence that Kubrick had on The Shining from Eraserhead, particularly in the audio. But he's doing it with music. And Lynch had done that fantastic work with Alan Splett, where they're recording unusual sounds and it's probably the most developed audio soundtrack ever made is the soundtrack for Eraserhead.
Yeah.
Because it isn't just music. It's a panoply of various sounds to give moods and feelings. I cannot think of another film that is as developed of a soundtrack as that film.
There's one aspect, because of course now you're also talking about making art and that handcrafted way of making it. And there's this particular subject I'd love to talk to you about, because again, I think you've made, again, your book, I think you made so much special, interesting art also in terms of your movie. And one of the films you also did, we talked briefly last time about Beowulf, which I think is an underrated gem.
Fight me, damn you.
And while you were making that, that's a movie that was made like on the cusp of a technological breakthrough. It's one of those first performance capture kind of films. Yeah. So technological wise, that's so interesting, but there still had to be, it still has that human element, that acting element that had to be, interwoven into the technology of the film. But now we have artificial intelligence that's developing at a geometric rate. And you have art that is just like, it's boring, and sometimes it's stealing, and not in the cool Stanley Kubrick way, but stealing, other artists' work and making stuff out of it. And I love to hear someone from you who spends years making stuff and, makes it by hand and, is so passionate about it. How do you feel about sort of, of artificial intelligence and it, spreading the way it is?
I think if it's ethically done, I think it's an incredible tool if it's ethically dealt with. Just on the macroscopic element of AI, you hear a lot of people concerned about the dystopic aspects of it. The first film dealing with it being Stanley Kubrick's 2001, the dystopic aspect of Hal.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
Becoming in control of the environment, and of course, the deaths of many of the astronauts and attempted murder on the final protagonist. I think it's very apparent that in terms of preventing the true dystopic possibility of AI, it's exceedingly important that AI never, ever is put in charge of the complete environment. That could be a true nightmare in terms of just within the arts. I mean, what I experienced with the Back to the Future situation was
almost a precursor to it in a way.
Is an exacting precursor, and I trust me, it is far worse than anybody might believe. I've talked about it to an extent, but on some levels I haven't talked about it.
Nice to see you back. You were in another one of those Back to the Future films, huh?
Well, they used portions of me from original footage, but they didn't actually.
Didn't use you?
Yeah, they put prosthetics on another actor to make them look like me and interspliced it. So
but do you still get paid for appearing in the film?
I haven't, as a matter of fact.
But are you entitled to payment?
I think I am, yeah.
Good. Yeah, we can make some calls later and, oh darn, no phone.
What people can do is horrific. I've experienced it. It's really not fun. And they think maybe they're being clever or funny or whatever. It's not. It's illegal. It's not cool. It's really not good. And then it goes in multiple levels and it affects one's life in multiple levels. It's really, really, really bad. And as bad as I might be able to verbalize it, it's worse. And to take somebody against their will and utilize it for someone's own means against that person's will for profit that the other person is not involved in is just bad. And so on that level, yes, AI needs to be ethically done. But what is it that somebody's influenced by? It's like you could claim that a story, there's only one story. Or you can say there's, 14 stories. Or, you can say there's all these different levels of storytelling. But it's something that has been happening. We don't know exactly when storytelling started. 100,000, 200,000, maybe longer. And so what is stolen or what is influenced? Well, humans influence each other. That's part of what storytelling is about. So on some level, you can't get upset about stories influencing each other. And then what is it that's stolen or what is it that's influenced? And is AI stealing, or is it a form of intelligence that is using influence in the same way that human intelligence is using influence? Like, when some of it first came out, I liked the painter Edward Hopper. And, you could go on and say, do something in the style of Edward Hopper. And really, relatively diligently, it sort of looked like an Edward Hopper painting on that. And of course, Edward Hopper's dead, and his paintings, images are essentially public domain. But the question of like visual artists right now, contemporarily, that have stuff online, and then the AI is culling that information. And if somebody said, do this in the style of whatever the contemporary artist is, and that person is still making a living from their artwork, that is questionable. That could be damaging to that person's livelihood. And they've taken these decades to manifest their style. So those things are questionable. And like I said, what I've experienced with Back to the Future and the fact that, I mean, publicly people know it's illegal, but Bob Gale particularly says, "Oh, we didn't do anything wrong." I mean, it's laughable. I'm glad people laugh at it. They see that this guy's, whatever. I could get really bitterly angry, but I'm glad I can laugh about it at this point because it's so utterly absurd. The guy is, it's stealing, and people know that, and they recognize it, and
the courts recognized it. I mean,
so these things are an issue that really need to be carefully dealt with. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I because of my experience with it, I mean, it's exact. What I've experienced is completely as prescient toward what's going on with it. So it really is important to deal with properly. And it's I'm sure there's going to be some strange things that will happen.
Well, listen, I'm glad you could come back here. It's always interesting when you're on the show.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to have you back.
And please come back again sometime in the future.
Well, thanks.
Okay,
thanks very much.
Nice to see you. Sure.